And there we are, live on YouTube. Sorah Dubitsky, this mic is all yours.
I take a breath and say hello and welcome, and I'm Dr. Sorah Dubitsky, and I am a student of A Course in Miracles, which means I have been studying and practicing and doing my best to live the principles that the Course sets forth. And it's when I think about the Course in Miracles, try to be really linear. It's this. It's a thought system. It's a philosophy. It's a psychology. The main concept is this, and that doesn't work because the Course it's is not linear in its thinking. It's holistic in its thinking. And it's like you read one sentence, for example, a workbook lesson, my mind is part of God's, I'm very holy. Let's see, you will believe that you are part of what you think you are. What does that mean? Yeah, the first time I ever read the Course, I was like, what does that mean? And then I started going to groups and realized what it meant was what I needed to learn. So I've been doing that ever since. And that's been about 45 years. Time flies. So let's start with a meditation. I did that last week and um, Lynn liked it. So, and hi, Steve. I don't think I've met you yet, but I've been through Gainesville. I don't think I stayed there. I was thinking of going to University of Florida, which is in Gainesville. I wound up at FIU in Miami. But it's a lovely area and it's very different from South Miami. Like you're in old, what was the Old Man River, kind of territory, sleepy bayous and hanging, trees with hanging vines. And we're in the tropics. Like if you've ever driven from
Right.
New York to Florida to Miami, like right around Fort Pierce, it changes all of a sudden, like all the beautiful old, weeping willows. And is that what they are? Those beautiful vine-like trees are gone, and you get flat territory and fake palm trees. That's where I live. So let's do some a meditation. Close our eyes and take some nice deep breath. You can't do this because if you're driving, Steve, don't do this. Do not close
Don't
your
close
eyes.
don't close my eyes. I'm only going 40 miles an hour.
I don't want to be responsible for any accidents, so you can hear the words, close your eyes or don't close your eyes. Don't close your eyes. And just take some nice deep breaths. Imagine you're breathing in and out of your heart. You were talking about heart rate variability before. Very good, really important concept in health. And we just breathe in and out. And I'm not closing my eyes. And allow something you're really angry at come to mind. And if there's nothing, yay you. But I heard Susan say something about minor annoyance. There's a line, and she was quoting like minor annoyance masks a major rage. So if it's an annoyance, if it's something, if it's or, you're driving, um, whatever it is, first thing that comes to mind, something that is annoying or majorly angry, no difference according to the course. And let that come to mind, let it be one of the functions of the course is to allow us to have any unloving thoughts come up to the surface so we can look at them and dispel them without judgment. So let that thought come to the surface. Whatever it is, it could be a situation, it could be a person, it could be a thing. And don't forget to keep breathing. And now imagine that you can see the situation, this person or thing, as if you were looking down at it from above. And notice if anything changes. And now imagine that this situation, this person, this thing, a place, you're looking at it from underneath. So you're looking up at it. And notice if anything changes. And now look at this person, thing, place, minor annoyance, from your right side. And now look at it from the left side. Now imagine you're looking at it from the front, which is typically the way we would see things. We're just looking at it head on. Now imagine you can circle back and look at it from the back. And again, come back to the breath. And in any of those instances, looking at it from above, below, right, left, front, back, were you able to see this situation, person, place, thing differently? And perhaps you were, and perhaps you weren't. And take just a couple of more deep breaths. Make sure your eyes are open. Welcome back. And think about how what A Course in Miracles teaches is this ability to be able to look at things differently. So, Lynn, Steve, you're here, did that, how was that? Was that easy? Was that difficult? Were you able to get a different perspective?
Yeah, it was very interesting, and I appreciated it. That the different perspective. It's similar to another thing little meditation that I do. So I appreciate that a lot. Thank you.
Okay, good, good. So in A Course in Miracles, and this is my book, which was this book was purchased in 1988 here in Florida, and I think somewhere near Gainesville. My husband, well, yeah, maybe near Gainesville. My husband and I were traveling through the state, and what I opened to today, actually, what the book fell, and what it opened to was a section in the manual for teachers called Jesus the Christ. And what I was mulling about in my mind was workbook lesson 35, which I had just done earlier in the week, about my mind is part of God's, I'm very holy. And I was going to combine those two ideas, Jesus Christ and, being holy. And then, as usually happens when I'm, trying to prepare a very linear lecture or discussion, because the course is so holistic, it's like, oh, well, you can't say that without saying this, and you can't say that without saying this, and oh, yes, it's a thought system, and oh, yes, this should go in there. And then, I lose track of the central thought that I want to communicate. So I'm going to come back to the central thought. And what does that have to do with that opening meditation of looking at things, from a different perspective? And what the course asks us to do is to look at our anger and our fear and our judgments and minor annoyances and let them come to the light. Just allow them to come up without judgment. And we can look at things without judgment because we're looking through the eyes of love. And another way we say in course language, another way we say the eyes of love is we're looking through the eyes of Christ. Because what Christ is in the course's perspective, now again, we're dealing with a thought system. The thought system is, as when I learned it, I was, studying, reading the book, taking notes, doing homework many years ago. One way I was taught to look at the courses as a philosophy, a psychology, and a spiritual path. And I like to think of it as a thought system because I think that as a thought system, or to use that frame, encompasses all of what I just said. Philosophy is a way to look at things. And the very beginning of the text offers a philosophy. And the philosophy is nothing real can be threatened, nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. As I'm looking for where that is, but I can't find it and I haven't memorized, so that's okay. And that's what so becomes, what philosophy is a way of looking at the world. And if nothing real can be threatened and nothing unreal exists, what do I really want out of my life? I want the peace of God. Or do I want, we used to say, we used to joke around in the old groups. Do you want a piece of God or you want a piece of ass? Terrible joke. We don't say that. We're politically correct these days. And I teach sex ed, so that joke comes up in my head every once in a while. But that's what the course promises, peace of mind. Do we really want peace of mind, or it's an interesting question, or do we want to dwell on the anger? Do we want to keep that reverberation going through us? An interesting idea. And one of the textbook sections talks about, do you prefer to be right or happy? And in the practice of the course, that becomes like, something to really ponder. Do I really want to be right, or do I really want to be happy? And of course, some people say, no, I want to be both. I want to be right and happy. But to let go of being right is part of the process. And I won't belabor that point. So to get back to, so as a philosophy, my mind is, that how do I want to look at the world? That's a philosophy the world is good, the world is bad. So, keeping it simple. Psychology, of course, is really big on mind and explains, or, that what we call our mind is bigger than, um, than the everyday yada, 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 thoughts, stream of consciousness that goes through our minds. And then as a spiritual path, what is a spiritual path is how we relate to spirituality or religion or God. And the course has its own particular way of looking at God. So I'm gonna go back to where I was talking about let's see, forgiveness. Yeah, this is, I think, from the clarification of terms. And it's a section on Jesus Christ. And the way the course presents Jesus is as an awakened brother, somebody who has walked the path of earth and I want to say and graduated, went through all the trials and tribulations, um, but never once condemned. And I've talked about this before, his message from the cross as he was being crucified, nails were going into his palms, they were going to his feet. What he said was, forgive them. Forgive them, they know not what they do. He didn't say, you stupid idiots, what are you doing to me? He didn't say, God, strike them dead. He did not show anger. He forgave perfectly. And there's a section that talks about the message of the crucifixion. And it talks about how we're what's the word? We're likely to get angry or fearful or annoyed in the face of much in the face of a less extreme example, in the face of something much gentler, milder. And then crucifixion. What was on? Every once in a while they showed the movie The Life of Brian. And Brian is portrayed as like a poor schnook, a guy who gets confused with Jesus. Like he people think of him as a savior. How exactly it happens, that's what the story is about. But I'm going to give away the end. At the end of the story, of course, this, poor schnook, Brian, who's just trying to live his life, is crucified. And even though he hasn't done anything. And we could say, in a way, we could say that about Jesus. In that story, Jesus hasn't really done anything. And in the course, to preface that, this course is said to have come from him. And there are places that could be considered a direct quote from him, but I don't want to go there. Oh, one of my favorite movies, yes, Monty Python, absolutely. I just saw the Meaning of Life. They were playing that on Netflix. Love those movies. So in The Life of Brian, which is the movie I was talking about, Jesus isn't even in that movie, but this, like I said, I call him a portioner because he just wants to live his life and everybody mistakes, what he's doing or what he says, for being, he's the Messiah, for being, the enlightened one who's going to save them all. So at the very end of the movie, he's on a cross, and there were other people, men, I think all men, like on the cross. And one of them, oh, Eric Idle is the Monty Python guy, is the actor, and he starts singing, "Always look on the bright side of life." And I won't attempt to sing it, but it's such a metaphor for when A Course in Miracles teaches that whatever the trials and tribulations we're on, A, there is no death. B, like you can't take this world seriously. And think about that. We can't take it seriously. And we all behave, and I've said this before, we all behave as if we've been crucified, what I say, in the face of less extreme temptation. Like my body hasn't been hurt, but boy, like is my personality or my ideas of who I am, that's been hurt. So what the course is teaching us is, to get back to, what the course says about who Jesus is. I will read. So this is the first paragraph, and I'll do a time check. Wow, time goes by really quickly. So I'll do a time check. This section is called Jesus of the Christ. There's no need for help to enter heaven, for you have never left. There is no need for help beyond yourself, as you are circumscribed by false beliefs of your identity, which God alone established in reality. Helpers are given you in many forms, although upon the altar they are one. Beyond each one there is a thought of God, and this will never change. But they have names which differ for a time, for time needs symbols, being itself unreal. Their names are legion, but we will go beyond their names. The course will go beyond the names the course itself employs. God does not help because he knows need, but he creates helpers of his son while he believes his fantasies are true. Thank God for them, for they will lead you home. See, so jam-packed with different stuff in there. And an easy translation is that if we look at the history of this world, there's been a Buddha, there's been Moses, there have been masters and saints and prophets who have come to teach us. I also think in terms of, people like, oh my God, I have a problem. My toilet's leaking. And I have a guy who can help me. At that level, there's helpers all around us. But masters, saints, their names are legions. There's other places where it kind of says the same thing, that you can appeal to, we need bodies, that we are corporeal beings, meaning we have bodies. And there are people we can, there have been saints and masters that said, hey, try this, try the light. One of the people I quote all the time is Joseph Campbell, for his teachings. He wasn't a student in Course in Miracles, but he comes out with statements like, we have only one problem, which is separation. That's right out of Course in Miracles. And we'll save that one for next week. But it goes on to say, the name of Jesus is the name of one who was a man, but saw the face of Christ in all his brothers and remembered God. That's a key. That one sentence is a key to the entire Course in Miracles. that what we're taught is that, the figure of Jesus wasn't the Christ, that was an error. He was put up on a cross, like in the life of Brian. It was an error that they made a god out of him. I always say nice Jewish boy, bad press. It was an error that he was made a god. People so desperate for a savior figure that they made a god out of Jesus. And what the courts comes along and says, nope, you're all like Jesus. And that's what forgiveness is. Forgiveness is the act that this bright, shining example made from the cross. But we all have that potential to be forgiving. Yet yesterday, I may post this, like if you watch this, you know who you are, but I won't mention any names. And I was out to lunch with some nice ladies, and one of we were having nice conversation. It was very sweet. And one of the ladies exclaimed that she's really upset about what's happening in the world, and that we can't come together. And she said something like, I don't care what your politics are, but we have to learn to come together. And is anyone here, like who here is not like-minded? And I thought everybody was like-minded, and like lo and behold, one of the women was not like-minded. And I'm not even going to go into the specifics of what she was not like-minded about. Doesn't matter. What mattered was what the first woman said about it doesn't matter. In other words, forgiveness was inherent in that conversation, because that was the goal of the conversation. I hope that makes sense. And it's like what, we to forgive or to accept is to be like a Jesus. To see the face of Christ in all his brothers, to see everyone is innocent, no matter what their beliefs, no matter what their political beliefs, to look at people through the eyes of forgiveness. And I think I'm starting to run out of time. I said I'll go to about 3:15, if that's okay, Lynn. My computer's 3:05 now. To get back to this thought, the workbook lesson, my mind is part of God's, I am very holy. It is a way of putting this idea of being the Christ, being that Son of God that we all are, and put that into practice. And how do you put that into practice? Forgiveness. So the first time I read this lesson, my mind is part of God's, I'm very holy. Like blasphemy. I heard someone talk about that. I think it was Thursday morning. Karen mentioned something like that. What do you mean I'm very holy? What do you mean I'm like Jesus? But that's what's so simple about the Course. And at the same time, illuminating, luminous, or this big philosophical thing, because what it's saying is you have an identity problem, who you really are. I'm laughing because one of the people's front opportunity that was from the movie. That's great. I love that movie. That's funny. I'm sorry, Lynn just commented on the movie, The Life of Brian. If you ever get a chance, just see it. It's just such a great metaphor for for the idea that we're all innocent. So that's where I wanted to come back to. to say that my mind is part of God's, I'm very holy. It's here, is this line, the idea for today presents a different view of yourself. As I was saying, that we have an identity, only with one problem, an identity problem. We forgot the Son of God remembered not that who he was. And that the only problem we have is that we think we're separate from God. We think we're separate from each other. Joseph Campbell mentioned that I thought in a brilliant teaching that wasn't A Course in Miracles. But the only problem is one problem. We forgot who we are. We think we're separate beings housed in this body, subjected to all the ills of the world falling on our shoulders. We can be hurt and we can hurt. We have to protect ourselves. There's a lesson about, defenses. Sickness is defense against the truth, which is a whole lesson. Or if I defend myself, I'm attacked. And the idea is that, one of my favorite songs, and I quote it a lot, is "Oh Happy Day." Why is that my favorite song? Because there's the line, Jesus washed all my sins away. So the only problem that the world has is this idea that we believe we're separate. Because if we're not separate, what is there to be afraid of? If we're not separate, what is there to fight over? What is there to grasp? What is there to hold on to? If we're not separate, we're part of the whole. And there was something, in a book that I've been working on, God knows won't be ready, my opportunity for forgiveness. There's a line that I love so much. It's that we are asked to look on everyone through the eyes of divinity. Imagine that we are divine beings. What does that mean? Simply to be correct, to be connected to God. And everyone is that. It's not one of I mentioned before, masters. It's not, these holy people in white robes, and I have met holy people in white robes. That's not what makes them holy. What makes them holy is the ability. What makes anyone holy is the ability to see holiness in others. So in this line in the book, it's like we're taught or we're asked to look at the divinity in everyone and act from that divinity. See them through those eyes, and then behavior will follow perception. That's very psychological. If we see everyone as innocent, then that innocent gets reflected back to us. And it doesn't mean you become a doormat. It doesn't mean, steal from me and, oh yes, I forgive you. We separate what the attitude is from what the behavior is. So sometimes people, in this world, do bad things, whatever that means. They hurt us personally, and we separate. Like, okay, they did a bad thing. How can I see them through the eyes of forgiveness, even though they've done a bad thing? And that's what we're taught to do. That, they were misguided. Can I see them, like, yes, maybe they need to go to jail. Oh, years ago, there was a father, it was circulating Course in Miracles circles. A father wrote a letter to his son, and the son had done something, as the world judges it, really bad. And the father was saying, I release you to the consequences. of your behavior. If you have to go to jail, you'll go to jail, whatever it is, but there was no anger. The letter was written out of pure love. And that's A Course in Miracles. We separate behavior, and it takes practice. I'm doing this, like I said, 45 years. Anger still comes up, annoyance, but I work through. And yesterday, this lunch was such a demonstration to me how that thought of love allowed for the presence of everyone's perspective, without judgment. And I was so grateful that this other person, non-course student, recognized that, yes, there's no judgment. You have your beliefs, I have my beliefs. Can't we rise above them? And that's that's another part of the practice, where we look at what it is that's making us angry, and we come to the core. I often talk, this will be the last thing. I often tell the story about my husband years ago when wanted to go to Italy with his daughter, and I couldn't go. I was in graduate school, and I was teaching. So I couldn't go, and I was really angry. Like, he's going without me. And I prayed about it. Prayer is a mechanism of miracles. I prayed about it, and uh, I like guidance. I need guidance here. And what came to me is what I was really angry at was that I felt I was being abandoned. And more prayer work, okay. And then the thought about, oh, wait a minute, if I'm not separate, if I'm always connected to God, I can't be abandoned. So how can I be angry, right? So that thought came up. Okay, I can't be abandoned by God. I'm not separate from God, but we will discuss and discuss and discuss. And the truth of who I am is the spirit. But that didn't satisfy me. I was in my car, remember, driving to work, because I was working, and the thought came up, okay, I'm not separate from God. I got that. But he's still going away, and I'm going to be upset, and I'm going to be lonely, and he's still abandoning me. And okay, I'm going to need something really tangible. All this was an inner dialogue while I'm driving. I need something really tangible uh, to make me feel not lonely. And in my head, and what I heard was, get kittens. That was the solution. So I did. I got kittens. And I had a lovely, 2 weeks. I think he was gone about 14 days, and I had a lovely 2 weeks with my little kittens. And they got used to being at home, and they were sleeping with me. And it was just, to me, such an example of, how this works. That I withdrew the anger, not quite. I wanted I wanted to be close to feeling that wholeness. Steve's got to go. Yeah, me too, Steve. I wanted to feel that wholeness, and I did, and I felt that connection, and the kittens were, the answer. And I was able to forgive, and I was able to, like, great, go to Italy. I have my kittens. So, um, to say something like, my mind is part of God's, I am very holy. is to authenticate my identity as spirit, that and to keep that uppermost in my mind, to say that and I'll come back to this here, in this section on Jesus Christ, is he the Christ, meaning God's son? Yes, oh yes, along with you. So it's saying the same thing, that who we are is the Christ. It's a problem of identity. And because we're spirit, because we're connected to everything, the totality, yeah, we are holy, meaning we're whole. So, Lynn, let's just close our eyes and offer gratitude. Just a few nice deep breaths. You're not driving, so you can close your eyes, although I think you're not driving. And love is the way I walk in gratitude. So, amen. So it is. And thank you. If anybody's on, YouTube or I think I saw it on the course in your Facebook page.
Yeah.
So you can watch this there, I believe. And you can reach me, sorah@gmail.com. I also have a Substack link, Dr. Dubitsky.substack.com. So it's Dr. Dr. Sorah.dubitsky.substack.com. And that's all about intimacy. Intimacy and sex. I also teach sex education. And I have a podcast, Birds, Bees, and Beyond. It's on YouTube. So check in on any of that. You can also Google my name, and this will, all these these things that I am involved with will come up. And thank you so much. Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you
Thanks
so
for
much. I appreciate it
sharing the
so much.
life of Brian with me.
I
Great
love it.
movie.
I love it. Well, Bruce Rawls and I teach on Sundays, on Saturdays, and we talk about that a lot.
The life
And
of
we just
Brian, too.
mentioned this
Yes.
last week on our program, The Life of Brian. So I was like, twice in one week.
Is it recorded? Will I be able to get it through
It's on you. Yeah, it's on YouTube. It's on our YouTube channel, and it's we're reading The Symphony of Love by Ken Wapnick. So
oh, that
we do
must be
that on Saturday
wonderful.
morning.
Yeah, Saturday morning I've been going to the gym. I've been going to gym a lot these days.
Oh, you can listen to us on YouTube at the gym. All right.
All right, we'll do what time? Because I get back about 10:30. 10:30.
Um, I think it's about 10:30 on Saturdays that we're on.
Okay, when I
So
get back this Saturday, I'll take a
check us
look.
out. All right, Cindy, I
Yeah,
love
that's
you.
great. All right,
Thank you
love
so
you, Lynn.
much.
Thank you so much, and thank you. All right, love you. Bye.